around town. I really appreciate this, and thanks also to Diesel, a great independent bookstore here in the Bay Area. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, so thanks for having me. So this is a book about my father, my relationship with my father. He was a spy for the CIA for 25 years. And I think, a lot of people ask, why did you write the book? I think all of us want to understand our parents. We want to know sort of where we come from and who we are and who they are and where they came from. And for me, that question became a little bit more acute because of what my dad did, because he was a spy and there was so much secrecy in his life. And, I started to ask myself the question, well, he was so involved in secrecy in a profession where manipulation and deception and those kinds of things are part of the job. And I started to wonder as an adult, were those things that kind of crept into my relationship with him and into my personal life. And that's really what drove me to write the book. Those questions became a lot more acute when I became an adult and I became a journalist and a foreign correspondent. And I started to report from around the world, from war zones in Iraq and Afghanistan. And of course, after 9/11, what happened is that the CIA started to recruit people back into the fold. And that's what happened to my father. So he had been retired for a while, and he started to work for the CIA again. And so what happened was he and I started sort of doing this elaborate dance where, I would go somewhere like Afghanistan, and then a few months later, my dad would show up. Or I would go to Iraq, and pretty soon my dad would show up in the area a few months later. And I understood that as this process in a way of kind of circling around each other and trying to understand each other through the lens of these kind of massive conflicts and wars that were taking place all around us. And we were looking at these events from really different perspectives. He, from the perspective of an intelligence officer, and I from the perspective of a journalist. So they were very different, and yet we found ourselves kind of orbiting around each other in these very strange ways. And as that happened, I started to dig deeper into his life. And what I found in different places, sometimes in Mexico or sometimes in the Middle East, were these stories about who he was and what he had done in his past and in the present that were at times, exciting and interesting, and at times kind of unsettling and disturbing, because they sort of got back to that question of, well, who is he, and do I really know him? And so that's really what the book is about. It's this sort of journey, and I'm trying to, understand who my father was, and it's set against the backdrop of these kind of big conflicts. First it was the Cold War, all the way through to the present day and the War on Terror. So that's kind of the book in a nutshell. It's a kind of a journey and a father-son story and a war story. So with that in mind, I thought I would turn to the book itself and read you a few passages from different points along that journey. The first passage that I wanted to share with you takes place in India in 1973. I was born in India. It was my father's first posting for the CIA. And from the very beginning, his job entailed a lot of personal danger, but it also involved sort of these unnamed, unknown threats to his family and to me. So this passage is a little glimpse into what that was like.